What is the power of inspiration? Can a car be beautiful yet capable in all seasons? Yes, with ESP and all-speed traction control. Can a 340 horsepower Hemi give you fuel efficiency without sacrificing power? With advanced MBS technology, it just did. The totally new Chrysler 300, starting at $23,920. Chrysler, inspiration comes standard.
Now, Chrysler as a brand, we have some fond memories. It was all love, babe. The problem is today is that Chrysler went from 300 to 1. And I'm not exaggerating. Right now, Chrysler only offers the Pacifica. In some instances, I think the Voyager. And of course, I have been talking about this and talking about this and talking about this because I always talk about this, is that Chrysler went from somewhat appealing and in catering to the premium level, premium guarded enthusiast to now being the family mobile. And they've always kind of been that. But in today's video, I want to talk about that. What's up, guys? My name is Chris, and welcome to The Breakdown, where we talk about everything cars, news, and reviews. If you're new to the channel, welcome as always. And if you're not, welcome back. For Chrysler, out of all people, have probably the most interesting story and the most ups and downs of any automaker. And Chrysler, if you guys have not seen that video I did about 2 years ago about the 300 and its legacy, you can go check that out. But it really represented where Chrysler was. Now, given that Chrysler has been through its ups and downs since the mid to late 70s, all the way up until now, nobody has seen the good times and the bad times quite like Chrysler. And one of the biggest things that has really driven Chrysler down into the dumps is that they have lost the premium segment. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about that. If that's something of interest to you, stick around and stay tuned because you are now watching The Breakdown.
Buy a Plymouth, Dodge, DeSoto, Chrysler or Imperial. The forward look from Chrysler Corporation. Chrysler Corporation.
Okay, so the thing about Chrysler is that, as you guys know, they currently only offer one vehicle, which is the Pacifica. And going back into the history of Chrysler, especially from 1925 up until the mid to late 50s, Chrysler actually was a huge innovator of different models and different stylistic designs, and really kind of the variants of Oldsmobile, if you will, in the idea that they were innovators. And Chrysler has had so many iconic models, and the Hemi was one of the biggest things to come out of Chrysler, along with the airflow and the turbine engine, of course, and they just really took things to the next level. Now, I'm not going to harp too much on their build quality because, quite frankly, that doesn't really come up until the 70s. And then I was doing my research. It turns out that while the Chrysler Cordero, I think I'm saying that right, the Chrysler Cordero, I don't know how you say that, but anyway, but around the mid 70s, the Dodge Aspen and the Plymouth Volare really ruined the idea of Chrysler products. And one of the things that I really learned, according to Lee Iacocca, which of course I've talked about him in many of my other videos, is that the Dodge Aspen was not supposed to be rolled out until 6 months later, and it was prematurely rolled out, and it became one of the biggest flops in American history next to the GM X-Line cars. Now, the thing is that Chrysler itself has been relatively stable, even with the Chrysler K cars. Of course, you know, we all love the Chrysler Imperial as one of the big Rolls-Royce competitors. It wasn't a Rolls-Royce competitor, but that's who they thought they were. They were on the downward trend during the mid 70s, and then Lee Iacocca would go to Congress and ask for money, and then he would get it. And of course, that is actually how we get the birth of the K cars, in addition to the minivan. And so the minivan was a huge innovation for Chrysler in the town and country, as well as the Dodge Grand Caravan. And it was a big deal for Chrysler to be able to continue to innovate. Now, of course, with the cab forward design, we all know towards the early to late 90s, that was a big deal as well because they ended up being certified hood classics. By the way, let me know if y'all want me to do a video on the Dodge Intrepid because I've been thinking about doing that, and I think I'm gonna talk about that being a hood classic. And between many other Chrysler products, the Imperial, the LHS, the Sebring. There's a lot of different cars that have come this way and have given us true innovation. Now, one of the problems during that time was that Daimler Chrysler, in the car community, we know it to be a little bit of a problem, right? And so there was a benefit to Chrysler joining forces with Daimler in that they were the premium car brand that Mercedes used as a guinea pig, and in return, Chrysler was able to use some of their technology. Fast forward, and that's actually how we got the all-new Dodge Charger, as well as we got the Chrysler 300. Now, the Chrysler 300 is a big pinnacle moment for Chrysler, as it is the first time we truly respect Chrysler as a innovator since the late 70s. And the quality was questionable to some degree, but not entirely bad. Even the Pacifica, which was a love child between Daimler and Chrysler, still proved to be a great product from them. Now, before then, Chrysler had an amazing array of different cars you could choose from, and I think that actually started as way back as the early times of the 60s. But it seemed like during the 90s, Chrysler had a car for everybody, kind of like Nissan and kind of like Kia, in that they had an offering for everybody. Now, we don't talk about the Chrysler Aspen because that too was a flop. I think they just need to stay away from Aspen. It seems to be a bad idea. But overall, Chrysler has demonstrated that they know how to give us great technology. They know how to give us great cars and even great performance, because the Dodge Charger, the Challenger, of course, the Ram trucks, all of those different products, including Jeep, just seem to expound upon themselves. But for whatever reason, Chrysler cannot get it together. Now, I have a few theories, and one of them being is that Chrysler tends to get absorbed and has to constantly reset, and they can't establish a form of legacy like Dodge for whatever reason can, or Ram because they're a pickup truck, or even Jeep as the off-roader. The premium segment as a whole has already been declining, and for whatever reason, Chrysler can't seem to grasp onto the premium segment. Now, that is a byproduct of younger buyers who once were the target audience being unable to afford these expensive cars, and nobody wants to talk about that either. But the real problem is that as these people continue to focus their budgets around more bang for your buck, premium doesn't really resonate. It's either mass market or it's luxury. The other thing is that Chrysler has a reputation for not necessarily managing its budgets well. I don't make the news, I just report it. And it has seemed as though there have been a few instances, whether it be the Congress time of the 70s, whether it be the Mitsubishi debacle of the 80s, whether it be the Daimler Chrysler of the 90s, and even the Cerebrus of it all between Daimler Chrysler of the 2000s, as well as a merger and acquisition by FCA, and then another merger acquisition of Stellantis, and then a poorly ran, managed company by one particular person who happens to rhyme with Alvarez. I just report the news. And so you can call it a string of bad luck, but really what it is it sounds like a lot of misunderstood decisions, misinformed decisions. And unfortunately, Chrysler has not been able to grasp their target audience because they're too busy chasing their tails. Considering where Chrysler is, like I talked about in the Dodge Neon video, it is a very good opportunity for them to focus their efforts not just on family mobiles, but the younger buyer. The younger buyer right now has the most power, even though they don't have the most money. They influence what's cool, they influence what is hot, what is trending, and that is why the Scat Packs, and that is why the Mustang GTs continue to sell, because they continue to cater to the younger audience. And considering all those things, Chrysler has announced recently that they will be bringing back the 300. Now, in all fairness, I don't think that bringing back the 300 is the answer. The real answer is figuring out a model that is of quality, that is going to be affordable, not necessarily cheap, but a model that will resonate with the younger audiences, hit all of the marks, and be of quality. It doesn't have to be a performance model. It doesn't have to be supercharged. It doesn't have to be turbocharged if it doesn't require that. But what really is important is that Chrysler figure out who their target audience is or potential market they can tap into. But I say all that things to say, from 300 to 1, Chrysler has pretty much lost it all. And I do believe that in today's market, if they were to bring something back, it needs to be a hit. You need a hit, babe. You need to go into the studio and get into the booth, bitch. Get into the booth. And until they are able to reconcile with the idea that they need better management strategies, and Stellantis, honestly, as the parent company, needs to give them free reign to do what they want to do to be able to make the company profitable, they will never be able to move past where they are today. But that's just my 2 cents. You guys leave me a comment below and let me know how you feel about Chrysler. Have you forgotten about it? Do you still remember anything special about them? And should they try to bring something back in the event that they are formally discontinued? And with that being said, if you have made it to this far in the video, thank you for sticking around. And until the next one, I will see you guys later.